My God, we're back. Once again, it's Sunday, it is 8 Eastern, and that means it's time for the Mageduckey Ship Spectacular Show. I am one of your hosts, Rangerj1999, and this is the show where we talk about ships, nothing but ships, so help you God. And of course, joining me is the man of the hour, the one with all the ship knowledge that you need, from PvP to just farming to what does what, Mr. Mageduckey. What's going on, bud?
Not too much. Looking forward to jumping in headfirst into these new ships.
Yeah, we got some new ships and it had some announcements over the weekend with Celebration, which I know you've been watching. Anything that stood out to you, maybe in the realm of ships or something that might be brought into the fold for the game?
Between the most recent updates, what to look forward to section, and then what Jesse had to say at Celebration, I think there's a good chance we're going to be getting R2D2 because
Hmm.
Beep Beep Boop Beep seems to be a robot of some kind, and
Or
R2D2 is a fan favorite.
someone
Um,
farting in Star Wars, we don't know.
um, but so with that, we do have some people speculating that R2D2 is going to be heralding in ship hardware.
Mm,
I myself am hesitant uh, to think that, just because I don't know. It doesn't seem like they would release one character, and that one character is what would bring about ship hardware
right.
for everything. Um, so I don't know. There's that, and then the only other news that I know of for the game was that there's a new game mode coming out at some point in the future.
Yeah. Do you think ships will be involved with that?
Yes, I'm pretty sure Jesse said something about like it's gonna incorporate like your whole roster.
Hmm.
Um, and I don't remember the exact words he said, but I think the way he said it, is going to include ships and ground units.
Okay. All right, so we have that to look forward to. Hey to everybody in chat. Glad to have you. Remember to get your ship questions in to Mr. Mage Ducky and to myself. We will answer them to the best of our abilities. So let's get right into the meat and potatoes of everything. Let's talk about these new ships. And which one do you want to get into first, my friend?
I think it's natural to start with the Ghost.
Okay,
It's kind of more of the primary ship here.
okay, I've got it up.
So if we're just going through the abilities, of course, all of these numbers that I'm going to say are going to be at maxed stats. So that's going to be all three crew members, 7-star, Gear 11,
Mm-hmm.
7-star, everything maxed, unless I specifically say otherwise during the stats section,
Right.
make it a little bit more relevant to the majority of people. So the Ghost's basic ability is going to do around 22k, which is pretty average for basic abilities in general. It's a little on the low end for attackers, though. The Ghost should be stealthed about half the time from its own abilities, so it's guaranteeing a crit against all but a mace taunt. So it's like, kind of like what Weatherman or whatever it was. 50% of the time, it works every time. I realize there it's Anchorman. That's what it was, Anchorman. I'm sure chat's blowing up at me right now. But then the unique is sensor scrambling. Currently, most ships have roughly 15 to 30% chance to resist based on the formula. The resist formula isn't entirely clear. We've got three different camps. All of them have somewhat valid arguments. However, regardless of what the resist formula actually is, reducing the enemy's potency by 20% is going to give you an additional 20% resist chance.
Hmm.
So it's a really good counter to target lock fleets, to Tarkin in general, because he's based off of debuffs, and good against countering enemy bigs, right? Because if they can't target lock, then they can't heal bigs up.
Right.
And then, uh, sorry, my screen froze.
It happens.
Let me just. Okay, sorry.
Hey, Shadow Val.
There,
Hey,
come
Eric
on.
S. Everybody in chat.
Okay, okay, there we go. Um, so if the additionally, when the Phantom 2 is present, the Ghost cannot be target locked. So what that's going to do is give them one less opportunity to like do a fives or a boba AoE. There are various abilities, that are more powerful or have very good status effects applied when you've got the target lock on you.
Right.
And so the Phantom's going to protect the ghost in that manner.
Okay.
Also, something that I think I missed, but that is important, whenever an enemy's debuffs are resisted, they suffer speed down. So if you're spreading speed down across the enemy fleet, that's going to kind of be the opposite of what Biston does in giving lots of bonus turn meter. And so if you have, say you had Biston and the Ghost in the same fleet, now you're boosting your speed and dropping their base speed by 25%. And so the two together should give you a lot more turn meter over time than the enemy.
Okay.
The first crew ability, Static Jammer, is going to be about average for crew ability damage, depending on who exactly is called. Because when ships are called to assist, they're using the basic ability. So it has the chance to grant protection up to 3 allies, but not the ghost. Although the ghost is assisting, Akbar's unique doesn't say assist. It says when a ship attacks outside of its turn.
Mm.
And so the ghost would still be attacking inside of its own turn.
Okay.
Anywhere from 1 to 3 allies with protection up. This is a decent way to increase survivability of the fleet if Biggs is dead or not taunting, because the rebels are a little light on target lock, so he's not guaranteed to always be taunting. So it's a good way to kind of increase survivability on backline members. And cooldown is painful. Additionally, the protection up will expire when the stealth does on targets with the ability, and therefore it's only going to help against AoEs. So if you're thinking of like using Static Jammer to protection up and stealth somebody to keep them alive, the overlap, and so the protection up is not going to help you once you come out of stealth. So the only way it's going to help you is if everybody is stealthed, or if so it's not as good as it could be, I guess. The second crew ability, Attack All Angles, does worse than basic attack damage.
Okay.
From any ship. Like if you have no stealthed rebel allies, this thing is a waste of a turn. Because it does no damage unless you have multiple stealthed allies. However, with 4 total stealthed rebels, including the Ghost, the attack would be roughly 80% as strong as Boba's missile AoE. But this one hits everyone instead of just target locked enemies. Which means if you have less than target locked enemies, you're going to get more overall value out of this than you would out of Boba's AoE.
Okay.
So it definitely has potential, but if you don't have stealth ships, then no. So that's definitely, when you're seeing that, you're probably going to want to throw in Biston. You're going to want to throw in Maul at some point to keep that stealth function going.
Okay.
So for anybody who's looking to use the Ghost right now, the AI currently uses this ability first, but it should be getting changed so that it uses Static Jammer first, to where it'll stealth a ship, and then the first turn, and then the second turn it would. So that way you're pretty much guaranteed to have at least 2 ships that are stealthed for a 60% damage increase.
Okay.
The last crew ability, Take Them Down, is great synergy with target locks. Exposes 20% of max health, which is higher than max protection for every ship. With AoEs like Attack All Angles, Akbar's Defiant Volley, and Boba's and Five's missile AoEs, all of which are pretty common, this can add a solid chunk of damage to another ability. You just have to make sure it doesn't get cleansed, or you can't reach them with an AoE, and then it falls off after 2 turns. Okay. It's not the ability, but if you can get at least 60% turn meter, ideally 80% minimum, because it does generate turn meter based on the number of enemies that are exposed. So if you get 3 to 4 ships exposed, you can almost immediately use attack all angles to capitalize on expose and reduce the overall cooldowns of the ship because you're making it go a lot faster.
Okay.
So those are the abilities. The stats at max, it's going to have 92,000 health, which translates to 120,000 effective health,
Okay.
which is fairly average for attackers. Only takes 3 to 4 good hits to kill them. But that, I mean, the same can be said for Ahsoka, other attackers besides Boba. The speed at 159 is going to be kind of middle of
Decent.
the road.
Yeah,
It's after
it's above
Tarkin and
average.
Wedge,
It's a little bit above average.
but it's a little bit above average, but it's not
It's not super.
like if you're not in the top 25 to 30% in speed, you're automatically average simply because there's a lot of damage that could be on the board already. Before you, so because we can't modify speed, a ship's base speed basically in part determines how good it is. Because if it's slow, it doesn't matter what the kit is. Like Maul, he's slow. It doesn't matter that he gives retribution and stealth to everybody. If they have fast ships that can target lock and kill him before he activates, so
Then your Hoseburger.
the speed, yeah. So speed and specifically opening turn order, really needs to be taken into consideration when you're building a fleet. He does, however, activate before Jedi Consular and Tiebreaker, and so at max. So it would be able to potentially finish off Jedi Consular before he can use his assist attack.
Okay.
At 4-star character and ship, which is a fairly small investment. I think it's like one of each kind of pack for the characters and then for the ship or something like that. You're missing 33% of the crew contribution rating between 3 characters that are not 7-star and the ship not being 7-star. So that means your speed is going to drop down to 100.
You still there, Ducky?
Yeah, I'm still here.
Okay, go ahead.
Can you not hear me?
Yeah, you just paused for a moment. I was like, and?
Oh no, so okay, so I thought I heard something else. So if you're just doing 4-star ship and 4-star crew, but you do have max gear, your speed is only going to be 138, with your effective health being only 80k. What that means is you're going to be as slow as Sun Fac and Geo Soldier. You're going to be killed in 2 hits without ships. So obviously, this 4-star ship could never enter max combat. If the people around you are similar 4 or 5-star characters, 4-star, 5-star ships, would probably take only 3 decent hits to kill it. So it is pretty fragile, but I mean that's in line with being an attacker. Most attackers are. Max stats, the Ghost is a cross between an attacker and a support ship, which does fit thematically with the show.
Mm-hmm.
You know, sometimes they're doing like smuggling runs to help out. Other times they're just straight up attacking something. So it is kind of a cross. And in that regard, I think CG did a really good job with designing the ship. It's potentially a very strong addition to a Rebel fleet with a very heavy investment cost of getting 3 characters to gear 11, getting 3 characters to 7-star. It's to reach max stats, you need 240 purple ability materials, 45 omegas, 4,300 purple gear, 200 gold gear, and 8 raid gear. That's because you got 2 tanks on there, and then Hera. Mm-hmm. That's a very heavy investment for one ship. If you're not a whale, and if you're not planning on using Phoenix Squad in regular like squad arena, don't invest in the ship. It's going to take way too much resources as a free to play to build its stats up to where it's usable.
Right.
They're just because there's far easier and cheaper ways to build an effective Akbar fleet than vectors.
Okay.
I understand why they did the three. They want to make everybody in the Phoenix crew relevant, but it makes the ship for the majority of players, I think,
Yeah.
um, like super long term plan of maybe having it, and even then, it doesn't offer enough to justify that. If you're already planning on going with Phoenix Squad, if you're just going all out Rebels and stuff, then it's a solid ship, so you should definitely consider investing in it.
Okay.
And then next up, the Phantom 2, its companion. Now, I'm not sure why it's the Phantom 2.
Because
It's just called
Phantom
the
One
Phantom.
died.
Oh, Menace. Okay, so this is this. Oh boy, well, Mageduckey is so funny, isn't he?
No.
Not. Nope.
Just get to the
No, he is
ships.
not.
Not here for comedic
Uh,
talent, fool.
Fair enough.
That's nice of
Okay, so Phantom's abilities. The
you. Uh huh.
basic, slip away, does 20k damage. These are raw damage values, right? So this is before armor is factored in. This is definitely on the low end for basic damage, especially as an attacker. I haven't checked, but I'm pretty sure it's the lowest attacker basic damage in the game.
Okay.
So it's pretty sad. These damage values are usually seen on support ships, which the Phantom is a lot like. I'm kind of getting ahead of myself here on my notes, but the Phantom is a lot like Darth Vader's ship in that it's classified as an attacker, but it's a support ship.
Hmm.
So it doesn't have the sturdiness of a support ship like an attacker, but it doesn't have the damage of an attacker. So it's in this awkward. Now Vader offers immense utility through guaranteed target lock, dispel, permanent target locks, and so his is justifiable. It's acceptable. Doesn't offer that kind of utility, and so it's kind of it's two worlds, and because it's not fully invested in one or the other, it does weaken its capabilities a bit.
Okay.
It does have a 75% chance to grant stealth, um,
Hmm.
which is great for preventing focus fire, as the ever so loved Zeta Mall lead is currently showing us in Arena.
Hmm. Let's not talk about that.
However, this yeah, that's why I phrased it the way I did because most
Hmm.
people hate it. Um, However, this stealth will be overridden with the taunt that is generated by its unique that we'll cover next, and loses the taunt. It won't like automatically regain stealth. It has to proc stealth again the next time it uses its basic ability.
Hmm.
So stealth basically helps it avoid maybe like one attack, potentially two. But if they hit the ghost with a crit or a debuff, then Phantom's going to be taunting, and the the stealth from basic and the taunt from conflict with each other. And I'm not really sure what's going on there. Just in terms of like I don't know. I don't like it when a ship's kit conflicts with itself because then
Right.
it doesn't like make sense to use the ship because it doesn't do as well as you think it should.
Hmm.
The unique to give context to this short ramble I just went on. Distraction tactics plus 5% evasion per rebel ally, so 25% evasion from a full rebel fleet, which would put the Phantom a little over halfway to Imperial TIE Fighters dodge rate, 27% versus almost 45%. When you factor in Cassian's plus 12% evasion to rebel allies, should you be running his ship, you're up to 39% evasion on the Phantom. Evasion up grants 15% evasion, bringing Ahsoka's dodge chance to only 17%. However, personally, I tend to avoid attacking Ahsoka when she has evasion up because she dodges like crazy on defense. It's annoying.
Right.
And so I try to avoid that, you know? You just focus down other people who have less dodge and then come back to her. 39% is over double her dodge rate. So with average RNG, the Phantom should be dodging more frequently than Ahsoka, even when she has evasion up. This definitely contributes to its survivability, as it has the health of an attacker, but is a hybrid soft and hard taunt. It's the hard taunt because it actually gets taunt, crit, or debuffed. However, it's a soft taunt because the way the taunt works is that it gets taunt and foresight, and then it loses taunt as soon as it evades. Attack it, miss, and then they're no longer forced to attack it. And so what this does is anybody trying to focus down the ghost is basically going to be wasting every other attack on the foresight. And that's the hard taunt mechanic. The soft taunt would be, I want to kill the Phantom first so that I can focus down the ghost. And the evasion really helps with the soft taunt mechanic, helping it to survive longer so it can perform its hard taunt functionality. I think yes. So this could potentially be a very annoying setup because basically the Phantom's going to keep dodging, and when you get annoyed with that, switch back over to the Ghost. As soon as you crit or debuff, then you have to target the Phantom again. So kind of like doing switching taunt around between ships with Plo Koon, to where you're not able to quite kill one before you have to focus on another one. The first crew ability, Sights Locked. Now there are no other abilities that inflict target lock on multiple enemies. However, two important things to note are that the target lock is not irresistible, unlike Cassian's and Biston's, and there's only a 50% proc chance on the second target lock, which means that only 50% of the time is this going to be doing anything other than a single simple target lock. Additionally, the second target lock could land on an enemy who already has target lock, making Biston and Biggs procs the only real benefit in that situation. So the idea is that you're spreading a bunch of target locks, but Cassian goes after the Phantom, but Biston goes before. So if Biston target locks somebody, and then the Phantom goes and target locks a second person, but then you get a proc rate against the first target locked enemy, it had no effect, even though you technically target lock two enemies. So it's not quite as good of an ability as it would seem.
Okay.
However, the 50% chance to give Biggs double protection is certainly appreciated, as well as giving extra targets for the ghosts, take them down, and attack all angles. Both of those benefit from target locks.
Okay.
The second crew ability, Maximum Impact, does basically the same damage as the first part of Jedi Consular's attack. So, like, imagine if you've ever used Jedi Consular's ship, you use him, the kind of damage range that he gets is the same damage range that this would have, which means it's pretty average damage for a crew ability. But if you happen to land the 70% chance to grant allies critical chance up, a consistent way of boosting damage than passing out advantage occasionally from like Akbar's heal or from Biston procs. And so it's going to be more consistent damage, especially with assists, Rebels getting all of that bonus crit damage when they attack out of turn. With crit chance up, they're more likely to land a critical, making the crit damage relevant. It helps counteract enemy Cassian ships as well, that would have between negative 25 to negative 50% crit chance through the crit avoidance on them. So I think should we start seeing more Cassians, the Phantom 2 would be a decent counter to that. I just don't know if we're going to be seeing a whole lot of Cassian U-Wings out there.
No.
The last crew ability is an extremely interesting ability, in my opinion. So first of all, it's the only crew ability in the game to be based off of a crew member's level and not gear. I think, this is just speculation here, but I think CG recognized that there's only 5 characters that you're going to use in Squad Arena, and Chopper's the most likely to be left out.
Right.
So they're being nice and not forcing you to gear him up to take advantage of this really awesome ability. Which is nice. Obviously, you still need to gear up Chopper for the stats. So you can't just completely ignore Chopper. but you can basically, from day one of having the ship, have this ability maxed out and get the full 50% proc chance. So now to the ability itself. With only 19k protection at max stats, this ability will be utilized rather frequently, assuming the Phantom can survive long enough to activate multiple times, because it comes into play at the end of the turn. Being a soft and hard taunt hybrid covering the Ghost, there's a good chance the Phantom is going to be targeted first anyway when it isn't stealthed. Also, it's a bit of a grab bag in terms of what you get, with one of the four options, defense up, useless for a ship with only 24% armor and 72k max health. You're not going to see any significant extension in life there, in survivability there, with defense up. However, should the Phantom stay alive long enough for both it and the Ghost to get some buffs from this ability, it could make a fairly large impact on the fight. Imagine getting advantage and offense up on the Ghost, who shares this ability with the Phantom while the Phantom is alive. And then advantage and offense up after using Static Jammer to where you stealth ships, but before you use Attack All Angles, the AoE. Then that means that your next hit is going to do 50% more damage, and then 50% more damage again guaranteed from the advantage on everybody. So that's a nice 225% damage multiplier that you get for free.
Nice.
Pretty powerful. Yeah, it turns the average AoE hit into the most powerful AoE hit outside of Boba's Seismic Charge and a very trumped up 5's AoE. So definitely a lot of potential there, but it's only a 25% chance that both of those are going to trigger.
Okay.
A 50% chance individually for each of the four effects. So there's a 75% chance that you will get one or the other. 25% chance that you'll get both. So then moving on to the stats. At max stats, it's going to have fairly similar health to the Ghost, just shy of 92k max health, which is going to be roughly 120k effective health once again, same as the Ghost. Speed, however, is 168. The 9 higher than the Ghost. I actually had to scroll up and double check that. It is going to be 9 higher than the Ghost, which means it moves after Akbar and Vader, but before Biggs and Tarkin. So you basically have the Phantom activates before Tarkin, and then Tarkin and Wedge activate, and then the Ghost activates. Just so you can get an idea of like where they fit into the general turn order of things. With the same health as the Ghost, you're missing a third of max stats from just the crew and ship star levels. Being only 4-star versus 7-star. So the Phantom, without only 146 speed, meaning is about as slow as Clone Sergeant and Geonosian Soldier, which are fairly slow ships. If you're not getting the crew and the ship to 6 or 7 stars, don't use them. They'll be too fragile, too slow, and too weak to have any kind of positive impact on your battle. However, the Phantom is a fantastic companion for the Ghost. Although you could run one without the other, the Ghost is the primary damage dealer of the two, while the Phantom is basically the scapegoat that is sacrificed after a while to keep the bigger ship alive. When classified as an attacker, as I said earlier, the Phantom is almost a pure support ship. It has one ability with potentially high damage, maximum impact, but it only makes a big impact if the Phantom has offense up. To reach max stats on the Phantom, you're going to need 230 purple ability mats, 50 Omegas, 3,600 purple gear, 1,400 gold gear, and 9 raid gear. So another massive investment that is complete waste unless you're already going with Phoenix. And if you're not going to be giving these guys up and spending to get the ships maxed out, then it just let them sit on your bench. Open up your roster every now and then, stare at how beautiful the VCX 100 is. Ghost, for those that don't watch the show. and then cry on the inside that such a fantastic ship is useless.
Well said, sir. Well
Sad
said.
day.
Yes.
Yeah. But okay, so to finish up, and then I'll shut up so that we can get to questions. Where should you use the ghost? You're like level 60, just starting out in ships, but you unlock the ship. You might actually be able to use the ghost for a short while until everybody outpaces it by farming character shards and ship blueprints. Or if you're a whale who is maxing them out, you also should consider using them. You definitely want to use these two ships under Akbar for protection up bonus on the Ghost's stealth ability, as well as the crit damage boost from attacking out of turn with the crit chance up and advantage from Phantom, as well as the flexibility to heal either the Ghost or the Phantom, since both are fairly fragile ships. You do need to have some other Rebel allies alongside them in order to make them worthwhile. So Biggs is definitely in opinion. You cannot run the Ghost and the Phantom in a fleet with less than 4 rebels. The Ghost and Phantom are just, they're too faction specific, too focused on their faction to be good plug and play ships elsewhere. Unlike Boba, First Order TIE Pilot, Biggs, those are pretty generic ships that can go anywhere. The Ghost and the Phantom are not. They do require a rebel fleet. So there are 3 remaining rebel ships and only 2 slots: Biston, Cassian, and Wedge. Now, the 2 U-Wings serve as a form of target locking, with Cassian having more direct synergy with the fleet due to the lack of consistent, reliable target locks to proc Biston's assault plan. So the big reason to run Biston is because every target lock you land is going to be giving 20% turn meter and advantage to a random ally. Consistent target locks, that ability is going to be kind of wasted. I mean, it's still useful, don't get me wrong, it's definitely still useful, but it's not going to be as beneficial as it could be. And so you'd want to consider potentially using Cassian instead, because his crit avoidance and evasion are going to help your rebel ships survive longer. And the Ghost and the Phantom, I think, they're not burst damage like First Order TIE Pilot or Boba, so ships like that. They're more of a sustained damage. So they're going to do about average damage, but over a longer period of time, which would add up to more overall damage over time.
Okay.
However, so that's why you want to use Cassian, but you do want a quick target lock to set up Biggs' taunt before somebody is killed, because again, they're both pretty weak ships. As such, Biston is questionably the better call due to having the 7th fastest speed in ships right now. Wedge, the 3rd ship, is a solid source of damage that is otherwise lacking outside of the Ghost and Phantom having offense up, while Cassian would help your fleet survive a while longer. You could take out Biston, so would be then Biggs, Ghost, Phantom, Biston, and Wedge. You could take out Biston for Cassian, and then just not have an early form of target lock, which is very risky. Wedge is especially very vulnerable in that situation. But you could take Biston out for another fast target lock generator. So TIE Fighter Pilot, First Order TIE Pilot, maybe even Vader, and give you a chance at proccing Biggs before a quarter of the roster moves, which would then keep Phantom, Wedge, and Ghost safe. For reinforcements, you probably still want Maul,
Yes.
But he's risky due to the stealth nature of the fleet. To Biston or Cassian, somebody who has stealth already, those 2 are just likely to be the healthiest at the time. Your whole fleet could end up stealthed, which would waste the effect. Maul, however, is still extremely potent under an Akbar lead, so definitely include him. You might want to rearrange your starting fleet slightly so you have another tanky ship, a ship that is tankier than Biston, but not quite as tanky as Biggs. To fill that, you could have the 5th slot instead be 5s, because you can still use his target lock on offense, and he does really well with retribution. The only problem here is that he won't use his target lock. So B, it's not as reliable on defense. It's not going to help you hold as well. The second reinforcement would likely need to be another taunt just to help the fleet survive because it doesn't have very good survivability right now. Sun Fact as well here because he's the closest thing to a reliable taunt since Republic tanks can't taunt on their own. The last slot would probably best be served as your highest remaining damage dealer. So TIE Fighter Pilot, Poe, even Boba could work due to being tankier and thus dragging the fight out a little longer. So the current where we stand right now with the Ghost and the Phantom is that I believe that they're powerful. I believe that they have a place in a Rebel fleet. We haven't exactly found it yet. Yeah, so
Okay.
definitely something to just to keep your eyes out for. Something I'm going to keep looking, theory crafting, pondering, etc.
Nice. Well done, sir. Well done indeed. All right, you ready for some questions as I do some fleet battles?
Sure.
All right. Question number one from Peace Marks One. I don't have an easy way to get Vader ships, so I wanted to know what's the best counter. What the best counter is for all the Vader ships at the top. See if I can find one. I just blew them up
Yeah, I counter to all of the Vader ships.
at the top.
Hmm. Well, so part of what's made Vader weak, potentially weak in ships, is that you couldn't farm him, right? So if you unlocked him at level like 4 or 5 star ship, then he wouldn't necessarily be
Actually,
as
there's
fast,
more.
and you could.
There's more. He says he's currently running Akbar lead with these first five: Biggs, Wedge, Bubba, TFP, and JC. Reinforcements are Ahsoka, Sunfac, and Geonosian Soldier. He says he's working on Scimitar and first or top pilot to take GS and maybe Ahsoka's place, but he's not sure if this is a viable fleet counter to Vader infused fleets. Please advise. If that helps you out a little bit.
Um, yes, I agree with putting First Order in for Soldier and Maul in for Ahsoka. Good calls there. Um, hmm. So the thing with Vader is, ideally, since you do have Boba, ideally you want to target lock him first. Once you have him target locked, then Akbar's AoE plus Boba's AoE, depending on how the relevant or sorry relative crew rating between the three ships, plus the initial target lock from like TIE Fighter Pilot or First Order TIE Pilot, should be enough to kill Vader. Probably like it wouldn't kill him depending on how many stars their Vader ship has and how well geared he is. There's a chance it wouldn't happen before he attacks once. But if you can, even if he attacks once, gets the target lock, Biggs taunts, you can at least still kill him off fairly. Should be able to kill him off fairly early with AOE's, and then at least his target locks won't be permanent. Um, so yeah, so my suggestion would be to get an early target lock onto Vader, which will be a lot easier once you have First Order TIE Pilot in for Geo Soldier. And then once you've got him target locked, Boba missile. So oftentimes I do Boba's missile attack on the first turn, even though it's only going to hit two ships. The one target locked and the one I'm targeting now. The ability block is very powerful, and the early damage is also very powerful. So someone like fives, you usually want to hold off on using the AoE until I've got like multiple target locks because his damage scales tremendously well with additional target locks. Boba's, because of the ability block, is I often use it personally anyway as an early AoE damage dealer, and then it'll come up usually right after seismic charge, and then I'll use it next, and I'll actually get two uses out of it in one battle on offense anyway. So yeah, so just target lock him and then try to AoE him down. If that doesn't work because he has too much health, um, then you'd have to bring in First Order for the speed.
Okay.
And yeah, and yeah, combine that plus TIE Fighter Pilot to try to burst him down.
All right. Next question from Adrian Bochanekik. Bach. Bochenek. I hope I said that right. Future question to answer. What are the best ships to use the new Mega Ship mats from the two purchase packs on?
Okay, so this has actually been a topic of some fairly serious discussion. Um, Something to note is that you didn't have to use Omega mats before. So when ships were first released, ship Omegas were not released, and so were over level 80, you could level up with just purple, green, and blue mats, ship mats. And so to anybody who leveled up ships and got them, like leveled up their abilities beyond level 80 before these packs dropped, good for you. You're ahead of the game. You don't have to spend Omegas on them. For the rest of us, ouch. This really sucks. And it really puts us at a disadvantage, honestly, having the abilities formally available without Omegas and now having them gated behind Omegas. That I'm assuming, like, that said that they will get them from daily activities. We aren't yet. My guess is that that's a bug of some kind. But as of right now, there's only 2 packs that give them, and you can only buy each of them once. So you're limited to 16 Omegas, which is what I think 3 abilities. I don't have any that have that show how many Omegas it is, but I'm assuming it's 5.
Hmm.
So if you don't have um, ships that were already above level 80, basically the question becomes what ships, be it like before Omegas came out, what ships did you want to go above level 80 for? Boba's basic 15% damage, that applies to the first hit and the 2 subsequent hits, because those are a scaled down version of the initial hit. Also, Boba tends to get retribution in a lot of fleets that I see, so every counterattack he does, he'll be gaining that benefit. It's also one of the only 15% damage increases, and so that alone makes it pretty viable. I'm not entirely sure. I'm going on to swgh.gg right now. Seismic Charge you can do at level 80, so Seismic Charge does not require Omegas. Boba's basic is definitely up for consideration. Another one would be no, because scimitars. See, the thing is a lot of these are either 5% damage or they aren't above level 80. So I haven't. I apologize, whoever asked that question. I think you said it was Adrian.
Mm-hmm.
Looked into that too terribly much. I guess so. I guess without giving specifics other than Boba, a good way for you to kind of judge it yourself is most of them are going to be on basic abilities, and so if it's a basic ability that is used very often, and if the bonus is greater than 5%, it's worth considering. If you said yes to either of those considerations, it's not worth it. If it's a special ability or a unique, then you would simply have to weigh how often does that unique trigger or somehow impact the battle. If, say, for instance, Biston's Assault Plan ability, which is based on Scarif Rebel Pathfinder's gear level and not level of the ship, therefore it doesn't require Omegas, I don't believe. Unless it does. Somebody please tell me if I'm wrong, because I don't have any characters who are gear 11 that have like, oh shoot, okay. I do. I just remembered I gear 11 Vader earlier this week, and the crew abilities require Omegas as well. Crap, Adrian, you're making me think. Here on the live show.
It's about damn
Wow.
time.
Okay, so crew abilities. Boba's basic and Boba's missile AoE are both worth considering. slip Maul's slip through is not. It's only 5% additional protection up, so 5% of their health, which on average is going to be like 3,500 health or something like, or protection. So that's not significant. That's not going to do much of anything for you. His basic is 5% damage. Um, Crap, I didn't realize crew abilities factored into that. Um, so yeah, I guess crew abilities, they'd be under the same thing though, really, is how often do you use it and how big of a benefit is it? Uh, yeah,
Okay.
I think I've rambled long enough,
All
too long
right.
rather, on that
All right.
question.
All right. This is from Eric S. Question: seems that the Ghost would actually be great with a scimitar in the team as well. Just theory crafting, but with leaving this would leave Biggs exposed to the retribution. Is his thinking? What are your thoughts?
So the problem with Scimitar is in the starting fleet is twofold. First of all, he's extremely slow, and specifically with a ghost fleet. But first, he's very slow, so he's not going to be applying retribution until most of the entire ship roster that's available to people has already activated. Because of that, he's very vulnerable, especially on defense. If we're focusing on defense, because on offense most things will win. Um, on defense, they're going to be able to focus fire him down unless you can defend, unless you can get a very early Biggs taunt going in order to, in order to like absorb the target lock, so Maul isn't target locked. If you can avoid Maul getting target locked and then AOE down behind the Biggs taunt, then you're set, right? Because Biggs is going to be getting them 40, the double percent protection, which is 40 or 60% or whatever it is. Oh no, sorry, 25% doubled into 50. Um, and so yeah, then it would work great. The Ghost would have lots of stealth ships, but Maul is stealthed, and the Ghost's ability, both of them are only based on Rebel ships, right? The Static Jammer says target ally who doesn't have to be Rebel, but it calls two buffed Rebel allies. So if you don't target Maul with that, who would then immediately lose stealth, there's no chance he would be called, which in some regards would probably be a good thing. And then for the AoE, it's based on number of stealthed rebels. So if you put Maul in there, you're automatically reducing the damage increase, which is the whole reason to have the stealth. So it's counteracting the purpose of why it's there. And so those two things combined make me hesitant to say yes to Scimitar plus Ghost in starting fleet. Especially since if you went for the early target lock to protect Scimitar, then you would be putting in, say, TIE Fighter Pilot or First Order TIE Pilot, at which point you have two non-rebels, and the Ghost does not work well if you don't have a lot of rebels. I don't know. It's the Ghost is tricky. I think that um, the the rebels have a tank that gains his sustainability off of abilities that the rebels don't have. Right, Biggs taunts based off of and heals based off of target locks, but the rebels don't have consistent target lock options. And so if you want to use Biggs, you need lots of target locks if you want him to survive for a while. But if you have lots of target locks, you have to use non-rebels, which means you can't use the Ghost because he needs rebels. So it's one of those situations where it just seems to conflict a little too much right now.
Okay. All right. From our good friend Vormax. Any info on the new ship piloted by the in parentheses Power Rangers lookalike Empire tunes that are coming to the game next week?
Oh, Garsaxon and Imperial's Super Commando or
Super
whatever.
duper commando, yeah.
um, no. We have absolutely no information on them, just like we had no information on the Ghost. So now, one thing we do know is that so they're releasing two Empire characters at the same time, but they're only releasing one ship. Odds are both of those characters are going to be crew members of the ship. I don't think we saw something definitively stating that.
Right.
We might have It might have been in the list of like stuff that you get from all the different packs and bundles in the update notes. I didn't read that section because I'm free to play, so it didn't impact me. But so I'm pretty sure we can say with confidence that they're both going to be in the one ship. So you're going to have another 4 ability ship that requires 2 characters geared in order to use it, which is a little annoying. But on the other hand, it is going to be an Imperial ship, our 4th non-capital ship, Empire ship. And
Hmm.
so with that, we are slowly getting closer to an Empire fleet being viable. Um, as I said uh, recently, I think, I don't know, that we different factions have different like themes running through them, I guess you could say. So like Tarkin obviously is debuffs. Mace is a bunch of healing and sustain and buffs through Valor. The AoE granting Valor. You've got Akbar, who is a bunch of assist attacks and more of like a kind of like an ebbing tide. Like you have like a damage spike from like a bunch of assist attacks, and then you try to survive with the protection up while you wait on cooldowns to attack again, kind of thing. Um, Newt Gunray, should his capital ship be released as it was data mined, is has a theme of applying debuffs and then slowly building up speed and damage over time. So that one you'd want to combine speed debuffs with sustainability. So they're going with themes here, and they're trying to, I think, anyway, that they're trying to make a full faction fleets viable, as we saw with like the Ghost and the Phantom are a step closer to a viable full Rebel fleet. And ideally, Gar Saxon's ship will play to the strengths of debuffs and speed damage. But outside of speculation, no, we don't know anything.
Okay.
So all of that to say no.
Hmm. Let's see. Next question from Adrian again. I think he's furthering on with the Omega thing. What ships would use the new Omega ship mats on? Would First Order TIE Pilot and TIE Fighter Pilot, or would be Bist and Turn Meter Gain 5% be better? Target Tarkin Target Block Fleet, for example.
Um, hmm.
He's really making you work tonight, doing all this new
Yeah,
math and
it is.
stuff. Good
Okay,
job,
so
Adrian. We have to have you on the show. You can ask these questions directly.
so out of those 3 ships that you mentioned, I guess we can investigate Biggs as well because the target lock fleet is going to be running him. The 5th is kind of up for debate. Plus, I personally would run Boba, and I already mentioned him. So for those ships, TIE Fighter Pilot, the crew ability, no, not worth it. The basic ability, also not worth it. The special ability um, is a cooldown 1, but that one doesn't. Come to think of it, that one's before 80, so that one doesn't require Omega Mats. First Order TIE Pilot, his crew ability is questionable. I know I said don't do it if it's only 5% damage. However, he activates very often, and ideally you're using strafe most of the time. So it would have like an impact in the fight more so than other 5% damage increases. However, I don't think that it should be your first one. I think strafe, first order type fighters, strafe ability should be on the list of desired ones, but it's a little bit lower down, at least at first glance. His basic is not worth it. Unless his basic would kind of be on the same plane as his strafe ability. He activates a lot, so it could be useful, but not with the limited initial mats. Later on, once we have them on farm from somewhere, then maybe. Let's see, you mentioned Vader. Vader's crew ability is 5% turn meter gain, not worth it. His basic ability, 5% damage, also not worth it. And then Biggs. His crew ability gets the -1 cooldown at level 6, not level 7. Level 7 is only 5% damage, so that's also not worth it. And the basic is not worth it. So out of the ships that you mentioned, plus adding in Biggs, who's the logical inclusion, the only ones that really are worth it right now in a target lock fleet would be Boba's missiles, Boba's basic, first order TIE fighters, strafe, and basic, and that's it. Between those four.
Okay. Next question from the late picks. What would be the dream Tarkin fleet? I have always run Akbar and fight the same 3 or 4 guys in ship arena every day. I finished leveling my current fleet, so I want to try to work on something new.
Um, Sorry, what was that? It's not that I'm not paying attention; it's that I was trying to find it as well. And
I've got the questions, that's why I'm reading them to
actually,
you, so you can just answer them. Let's try that again. This is what happens when Mageduckey tries to play Galactic War while he's supposed to be doing a
well,
stream.
no, the thing is like it helps me if I
Smithy
can
has been
see
a
the
bad
question,
influence on you. It's it's
especially if the
it's in streamer
questions
chat.
mention specific
It's in
ships.
streamer chat. Just go to streamer chat in
What it?
Discord.
Oh, oh, there we go. There we go. Okay.
Oh
Thank you,
my,
Finity. My bad.
oh my god. What would be the dream Tarkin fleet? I have always run Akbar and fight the same 3 or 4 guys in ship arena every day. I finished leveling my current fleet, so I want to try to work on something new.
Okay. The Dream Target fleet currently is centered around a target lock fleet because target locks are the most reliable and beneficial debuffs that you can apply. And Tarkin, he only needs debuffs in general. He doesn't need target locks. Um, so if you're running a Tarkin target lock fleet, you would probably go with something, you know, first order TIE pilot, Boba, Biggs, Biston, Raider. It's kind of your standard target lock fleet. There aren't enough Empire ships or enough Empire synergy run anything that's more Empire focused right now. And there's not like the Tarkin needs debuffs in order for the offense bonus to work. And his kit is limited enough that if you're not doing full offense with it, I believe that you're going to struggle. In that case, like a mace would be better because he's got more sustain, or even an Akbar. So if you're looking to switch to Tarkin, I would recommend doing a full target lock fleet. Yeah. And
Okay.
that's that. Yeah.
Um, this is from Saludin Abdullah. Question: is it a possibility that both Gar Saxon and the Super Commando will have their own ships respectively, meaning like 2 fighters instead of 1 ship with 2 crews? Darkseid is low on ships.
Yes and no. I mean, technically, yes, it's a possibility, but realistically, no, I don't think so. If we go to the 4.11 update notes, this limited character shards. No, that's elite. So I'm just looking through. We have the Phantom bundles, the Ghost bundles. We have. Okay, this it says right there. So we do know for a fact. Elite Combat Gauntlet Starfighter Pack. This ship crewed by Gar Saxon and his Elite Imperial Super Commando can be promoted even further. So the Gauntlet Starfighter will require both of them as crew members. So
Okay.
to answer your question, no, it's not a possibility.
Okay. All right. Next question is from Vlad. What is the Dream Mace fleet?
Oh boy. Um, man, people making me
Yeah,
think
how
so.
dare they?
um, so there are kind of two ways you can go with a mace fleet. Both of them are going to be uh, focused around his AoE. The first one is to do the same kind of target lock fleet, but under mace, because he can do a force taunt. His AoE will hit multiple target locks to be an additional source of damage, that kind of thing. His damage immunity, should you be able to pull it off, will help your squishy ships survive, and the fleet does tend to be a bit on the squishy side due to using Vader and First Order and Biston. The other route you could go still focuses on the AoE, but instead of using the AoE to augment damage, the AoE is your primary damage, right? So you would do you'd have like fives, Sunfac, Biggs, Boba, and then probably someone like Vader, First Order. So somebody who would be a faster target lock to activate Biggs early in the fight. And then you just spread some target locks, and then every single turn, Mace is able to use his AoE, which will refresh Valor, and then in case it was dispelled or something. And then when the smaller ships activate, they'll grant 20% turn meter, go sooner, use AoE again to refresh Valor, do more damage. And so you rely on his AoE to be the majority of your damage, and you choose beefy, tanky ships to basically sustain as Mace pours out the damage. Those are the two currently viable ways to run it. A full Republic fleet was viable back before the speed update, because people didn't really know how to, and or they used their own mace fleet against it, and that's where you had all those timeouts, all those draws. But now that people are learning how to fight, kind of, for the most part, and we also have 2 and 4 times speed, a full Mace Republic fleet doesn't have damage, and it doesn't have reliable target lock options to use that for Mace's AoE, and use Mace's AoE as the main damage dealer. So yeah, I think either a target lock fleet that's focused on the ships doing damage, or a target lock fleet that is focused all around sustain so that Mace can do damage, are the two best fleets right now for Mace.
Okay. Adrian, he's putting the pressure on you. Does say this is his last question. Uh, Last question. Update to the Omega Match. You forgot to mention Biston in the Omega target list.
Oh,
Would
I'm sorry.
5% turn meter gain from SRP be higher on the list versus Bobo AoE? Adrian, I want you to write Finn directly in Discord. We can get you on and. uh,
So part 3 or part 4? I'm not sure what we're on right
it's a
now.
part three question. It's about the ships. Answer the question.
So apologize for missing Biston. I even added Biggs, and I might have even added Vader to that, but I didn't do Biston. So my apologies for missing him.
Bastard.
Turn meter is good. So something to consider is that in the opening round, everything beyond like 10% turn meter or maybe 15% is wasted, right? Because everybody is pretty close to already being capped due to fairly similar speeds. We can't mod them. And so you have overflow that is wasted on the first round. In future rounds, I'm trying to think over my battles, if I can recall the number of times that a ship meter an advantage when it's over 70% of the way there. And I mean, it happens, but not consistently, not all the time. Plus, it would extend your range of I can go immediately next by 5%. So I would say Biston's 5 in a target lock fleet. SRP's ability for the 5% turn meter gain is more important than both of First Order TIE Fighters' abilities. But it is not as important as both of Boba's abilities because Boba is he just does like he's sturdy damage who tends, unless he's like focused down, tends to last a ways into the fight where he's actively contributing damage. Biston just contributes speed to help again. So my vote would be both of Boba's abilities, then SRP, first order TIE pilots.
Okay. Next question from Alliance Pimp Ghost. Any comps you see members of the Phoenix team viable in other than together?
Are they talking Fleet Arena or regular arena?
Well, this is a ship show. It's arena. It should be about ships.
If you want to take this one, Ranger, because I don't,
What do
I
you mean?
find the Phoenix teams lacking. So
Oh, this is an arena question. No, I don't. If this is just for basic arena, I thought this was a ship question. My bad. I don't. I think it's a waste of time. If you want to be well and you want to spend money on these tunes, go for it. But I mean, there's better focuses everywhere. I mean, they're just not
what about?
viable together,
I was
let
gonna say, well, what
alone.
about Ezra
But
and or Kanan in a
you
Jedi or a
can.
Jedi team?
There's certain. I could see. Now that's just them together. Now let's say we start taking the pieces apart, right? Sabine has some abilities that could work in Ezra too. Those two I definitely see. You could probably put them on different comps. Uh, that you could probably work them in somewhere because of what they can do. Um, but that's it. I really don't see any of the other characters being really good anywhere else. It's just characters out there that are just better at doing what they do, and they just you get more bang for your buck. But Sabine and Ezra, yeah, I could see Ezra in a few lineups. I could see Sabine in a few lineups. Um, because of their unique abilities that they can do, that you could possibly use them in arena. I think I'm trying to think of who it was I was talking to. They're actually going to try to work a comp with these guys and see how it works out. But I just don't think the other characters are something you want to waste your time on. They definitely are not great together. Last question. Let's see. Looks here. This is from our good friend Grim. What is the dream sandwich? And that's to you, Mage Ducky.
What?
What is the dream
What is the
sandwich?
dream? And I'm not saying what like I didn't hear the question. I'm saying what is in like
What
I
is
don't
your idea of the dream sandwich?
I don't know. Like there's so many good options.
Well, if you had to pick a sandwich right now,
Um,
you were hungry, you just wanted one, and you had to, you're going to reach into the barrel more than once to get it. What would it be?
Subway's fine. Subway's foot long Italian BMT on Parmesan oregano bread, lightly toasted with provolone cheese and
Mm,
tomato slices on top.
okay, very nice. Mine has always been and will always be ham and cheese with everything on it from Slotsky's. Love the shit out of that sandwich. Absolutely love it. But I haven't had one in for ages because I've been on my diet. Mm, but
Yeah, I haven't
yes.
had a Subway Italian BMT in a really long time.
Why?
Lunch or
You're not
dinner
on a
today?
you're not on a damn diet. What's wrong with you, fool?
No, I'm not. I just don't have money.
See,
So
if
it's a
you live,
forced diet.
see, you need to come down south with me and Finn. You come hang out. We'll buy you a damn sandwich from Subway anytime you
Oh,
want. Yeah, see,
I'll take you up on that sometime, maybe, hopefully.
absolutely. All right, so I think we are done. I'm gonna do one more battle. Um, I think we've covered all the questions. Had a good show. A lot of information. I am working on getting Vader ships so I can go into a Tarkin fleet. I've got the ships now to do it. It's just a matter of you have to have that Vader ship, unfortunately, and I'm still trying to get them unlocked. So that will be the priority for me is to get Vader ship unlocked. And when I do, we will actually talk about me change my fleet to Tarkin. Um, to, why are you laughing?
I switched because we were closing, right? So I like switched back over to the YouTube chat just to see like if there are any closing comments or anything like that. And so Pete says, "Do you eat sandwiches?" Finity, Mageduckey, put together a sandwich like you do a fleet squad. So
Okay.
he wants me to analyze individual components. And then Grim says, "No matter what galaxy you live in, sandwiches are awesome."
Uh,
So
wow.
yes, Grim, you are right. And Finity, no,
Bad Finity.
but I described it for you, so there's that at least.
Mm,
And Pete, yes.
okay.
Vader's ship is paper. That's because he doesn't have full crew rating and because he's not properly protected, Mr. Eric. Um, I mean, yes, he's fragile, but no more so for the most part than other attackers. He has maybe like 5% less armor, but that's not going to like contribute any. So, what is my capital ingredient? Um, Meat, just meat and jet. Like the four primary food groups are meat, meat, grains, and potatoes. Dairy is fifth, fruit is sixth, nothing else matters. And so the capital ingredient would have to be meat. Agreed, Grim. Grim is saying you don't have to have Vader to have a target lock fleet, but he's very helpful. And I definitely agree.
Well,
Um,
we decided that a long time ago, and I'm gonna live. I'm a man of my word. I'm gonna stick to it.
oh, Adrian brings up a good point.
Hmm.
Troll. He said it as a troll question, but it's actually something worth considering, at least minutely. Will Geospy synergize with a stealth team with the new Rebels? Turn to quad nuke.
Hmm.
Um, the one of the biggest problems with Geospy, right, was that he didn't have sources of stealth on other ships. Right, Maul was the only one who could stealth other ships other than like Biston, and so what with the Ghost stealthing the Ghost and target ship, the target ally would be somebody other than Biggs, other than Geospy, and then Spy would then pull Ghost and the other one. You'd still have a problem with that fourth ship getting stealthed. Pardon me, unless you made that one Biston as your early target lock. So if you were to do that, it would have to be probably Biggs, Ghost, Spy, Biston, and I don't really know who you'd use in the last slot
I don't either. I just
because you're
picked
like
one.
you're like that's such a hobble like I don't really know what the word for it, but just like kind of like a cobblestone on the ground, kind of like a cobblestone path. It's all disjointed and bumpy. That's kind of how that fleet is. It's kind of a hodgepodge. There we go. It's a hodgepodge of ships. There's no real synergy outside of that combo, and again, it takes too much to set up, too much to build around Geospy in order to make it worth it.
Hmm. Okay.
I think.
All right.
I think we're
So
good there, though.
yeah, I think it's a good time to end the stream. So we'll go ahead and get to the ending. Big shout out to Mage Ducky, who will, as a reminder, be on the Star Wars podcast, Star Wars Galaxy Heroes podcast show this week. So I think they come out on Thursdays. They put that out. So you haven't listened, check it out. If you like what you see, give us a thumbs up on the video. We appreciate it, and of course, subscribe, subscribe, subscribe. Remember, I've thrown the gauntlet down. If we get to 1,000 subscribers by Wednesday, I will open up $100 worth of packs. If not, then we'll just have to come up with another enticing offer. But we need 100 more subscribers, so if you want to see it, you got to make it happen. Tell your friends, tell your family, tell your dog, tell everybody. But you can also check us out on YouTube and Twitter. We have our own website that you can check out that has all this wonderful information on it. And of course, we have our wonderful Cafe Press, which is where we try to make money for the stream by having you guys buy merchandise so we can do stuff for the stream. So that's where we get a lot of our money. But we have some really awesome stuff there, like from this show that we've had T-shirts and other things made. MJ's wonderful wife has modeled some of it before us before. So there's that. So, Ducky, awesome show, my friend.
Oh, thank you. Thank you for letting me ramble about the Ghost and the Phantom.
That's right. That's what we do. And anything you got going on this week, my friend?
Um, Wednesday night stream with you guys.
That's right. That's a good answer. That's a good answer, my friend. All right, so we're gonna leave the stream there. So thank everybody for being out in the stream. We really appreciate your guys' support. You guys are amazing, and we love you guys. Keep it up. So on behalf of myself and Mage Ducky, this is RSG signing off, and we'll see you on the Wednesday stream for Star Wars Galaxy Heroes news and updates. Thanks. Bye.